She's deaf, not difficult, and she's also not stupid. That food is bad.
You need to calm down and let me handle this.
Little black girl defends deaf mother from racist flight attendant on plane over spoilt food. Ma'am, you need to eat what you're served or go hungry. The chicken smells rotten. My mother isn't going to eat spoiled food. There's nothing wrong with that meal. She's just being difficult. She's deaf, not difficult. And she's also not stupid. That food is bad. First-class passengers don't complain about our food. Maybe you should have stayed in coach where you belong. Where we belong. We paid for these seats. I'm sure you did. Let me guess, upgrades? Points? Charity program? My mother is trying to tell you something but you won't even look at her. I've looked at her plenty. I see exactly what's going on here. And what's that? Two people who don't appreciate what they have. I'm getting the captain. Please just smell the food. That's all I'm asking. What you just heard was a flight attendant who saw a black deaf woman refuse a meal and decided it was defiance, not protection. A woman who assumed that first-class tickets on a black family meant fraud, that disability meant faker, and that a 12-year-old's advocacy meant disrespect. But this flight attendant, Charlotte Hartley, had no idea she was serving spoiled chicken to Dr. Olivia Campbell, a food safety microbiologist who built a $340 million company detecting bacterial contamination. And she definitely didn't know that Dr. Campbell's daughter, Zuri, had been documenting airline discrimination since she was 9 years old, or that she was recording every single word. You heard the argument over a rotten meal. Now we're going to tell you the full story of what happened when a trained scientist's expertise was dismissed as attitude, when a mother's protection of her child became evidence of ingratitude, and when a little girl had to defend her mother's dignity while fighting her own tears. We're going to show you what was really in that chicken, what happened when the captain watched the video, and the moment Charlotte Hartley realized she just served contaminated food to 58 passengers and blamed the only person who caught it. If you believe standing up for what's right matters more than staying quiet, subscribe right now. Because this story is about what happens when ignorance meets expertise at 35,000 feet, and why sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important warnings. Dr. Olivia Campbell is 41 years old. She's the founder and CEO of BioSentinel Systems, a company that creates rapid detection sensors for bacterial contamination in food supply chains. She lives in Chicago's Bronzeville neighborhood, in a historic gray stone brownstone on King Drive that she renovated herself. Born profoundly deaf to Ghanaian immigrant parents in Detroit, Olivia grew up in a world that constantly told her what she couldn't do. Her father was a chemist who worked double shifts at a pharmaceutical plant. Her mother was a nurse who worked nights at Detroit Receiving Hospital. They didn't have much money, but they had fierce expectations of excellence, and they made sure their daughter understood that her deafness was not a limitation, it was simply a characteristic. Olivia learned to read lips by the time she was 3 years old. She was fluent in American Sign Language by age 5. By age 10, she was reading college-level biology textbooks that her father brought home from the library. She got a full academic scholarship to the University of Michigan, where she graduated summa cum laude with a degree in microbiology. She earned her PhD from Johns Hopkins at 26, one of only 3 deaf students in the program's history. She worked for the Centers for Disease Control for 3 years, investigating foodborne illness outbreaks across the country. And that's where she noticed something that would change the trajectory of her life. During a listeria outbreak investigation in 2007, Olivia traced the contamination source to airline catering facilities. 17 people got sick. 3 died. The contamination happened because temperature controls failed during a shift change, and no one caught it before the food was loaded onto planes. Olivia spent 3 weeks analyzing the failure points in the airline food safety system, and she realized something crucial. The testing equipment airlines used was too slow, too expensive, and required lab analysis. By the time results came back, contaminated food had already been served. She thought, what if there was a way to test food instantly, right at the point of service, with something simple enough that anyone could use it? So at 29 years old, Olivia left the CDC and founded BioSentinel Systems. She designed a paper testing strip, similar to a pregnancy test, that changes color in the presence of bacterial toxins. It costs 17 cents to manufacture and gives results in 30 seconds. She started selling them to hospitals, then school cafeterias, then military bases. And then the airlines came calling. Her technology is now used by 4 major airlines, 15 hospital systems, and the Department of Defense. Her company is valued at $340 million and employs 89 people, the majority of them women and people with disabilities. Olivia is known in the scientific community for refusing to speak at conferences. She presents entirely through interpreters and visual demonstrations. She's testified before Congress twice on food safety regulations, both times using an interpreter, both times commanding the room with her expertise. She's been featured in Forbes, Wired, and MIT Technology Review. She's won the MacArthur Genius Grant and the Heinz Award for Technology. But despite all of this, despite her credentials and her accomplishments and her undeniable expertise, the world still finds ways to dismiss her. And here's a detail that matters. Olivia carries those portable contamination detection strips everywhere. In her purse, in her car, in her office. After she nearly died from food poisoning as a child, spending 3 weeks in the hospital with salmonella, she developed what some people might call paranoia but what she calls appropriate caution. She tests food in restaurants before she eats it. She tests food at conferences and events. She's caught contamination 12 times in public settings over the past 15 years. 4 of those times, she prevented outbreaks. But most people don't thank her when she does this. Most people think she's being difficult. Olivia's daughter, Zuri, is 12 years old. She's in 7th grade at Chicago's Walter Payton College Prep, one of the most competitive public schools in the state. She's an exceptionally gifted student taking high school biology and chemistry courses, pulling straight A's while most kids her age are still struggling with pre-algebra. She wants to be a biomedical engineer like her mother, designing technology that makes the world more accessible. But more than that, she wants to be a civil rights attorney. Because Zuri Campbell has been fighting battles since she was 6 years old. She's been her mother's primary interpreter since the 1st grade. By the time most kids are learning to read chapter books, Zuri was learning medical terminology in 2 languages so she could accurately interpret her mother's doctor's appointments. She received her national certification as a junior interpreter at age 11, the youngest person in Illinois to achieve that certification. She's fluent in American Sign Language and English, and she's learning Twi from her Ghanaian grandparents because her mother wants her to understand where they come from. But here's what that certification doesn't capture. Zuri has spent her entire conscious life watching people dismiss her mother. She's watched doctors talk over Olivia to ask Zuri questions, as if a 6-year-old child knows more about adult medical symptoms than the patient herself. She's watched store clerks refuse to serve Olivia because they assumed she was intoxicated when she didn't respond to verbal questions. She's watched police officers become aggressive during traffic stops because Olivia couldn't hear their commands. And she's learned that no matter how many times she explains that her mother is deaf, no matter how much documentation she provides, some people have already made up their minds about who Olivia is based on what they see. A black woman who doesn't respond the way they expect. So Zuri started keeping a journal. She's been documenting every instance of discrimination she witnesses against her mother for the past 3 years. 63 entries in the past 2 years alone. Each entry includes the date, location, description of the incident, and outcome. She started doing this after an incident at a restaurant when she was 9, when a manager refused to serve them and called the police, claiming Olivia was causing a disturbance. The police arrived. Olivia tried to explain through Zuri that she was deaf, and the officers didn't believe them. They demanded ID, ran background checks, and treated them like criminals until another customer, a white woman, intervened and vouched for them. Zuri wrote down every detail that night and decided she would never be without evidence again. That's why she started recording interactions on her phone. She has a ritual now before flights, before doctor's appointments, before any situation where her mother might face discrimination. She charges her phone fully, sets it to airplane mode when required but keeps the camera ready, reviews her notes on passenger rights and disability law. She's 12 years old and she knows the Americans with Disabilities Act better than most lawyers. Zuri has flown 31 times in her life. She's experienced some form of discrimination on 19 of those flights. TSA agents who don't believe Olivia is deaf and think she's ignoring them on purpose. Gate agents who demand excessive documentation for disability accommodations. Flight attendants who speak to Zuri instead of her mother, as if Olivia isn't sitting right there. Passengers who complain that Olivia is taking too long to respond during boarding because she can't hear the announcements. And each time, Zuri has to be the adult. She has to explain, educate, advocate, prove, and defend. She's tired. She's so deeply tired. But she's also fiercely protective of her mother, and she will not let anyone disrespect the woman who gave her life. Today is November 3rd, a Thursday. It's also Olivia's birthday. She's turning 41, though she's never been one to make a big deal about birthdays. They're flying from Chicago to Los Angeles because Olivia has been invited to serve on an FDA advisory panel discussing new airline food safety standards. It's a huge opportunity. The FDA wants to implement regulations requiring rapid contamination testing on all airline food, and they want Olivia's expertise in designing those standards. She'll be in Los Angeles for 3 days of meetings while Zuri attends a youth STEM conference at UCLA. They're flying first class, which is unusual for them. Olivia typically flies economy because she doesn't see the point in spending extra money for a slightly wider seat. But BioSentinel just closed a major contract with the Department of Veterans Affairs, their biggest deal yet, and Olivia decided to celebrate by upgrading their tickets. Zuri has never flown first class before. She's excited about the extra legroom and the complimentary meals and the novelty of it all. She has no idea that this flight will become entry number 64 in her discrimination journal, or that it will be the one that changes everything. It's 7:23 in the morning at O'Hare International Airport, Terminal 1. Early November in Chicago means autumn light streaming through the massive terminal windows, painting everything gold. Olivia and Zuri are sitting at Gate B12, waiting for their flight to board. Olivia is reviewing her presentation on her iPad, graphs and bacterial growth charts and statistical models that look like modern art to anyone who doesn't understand microbiology. Zuri is working on AP biology homework, taking advantage of the quiet time before the chaos of travel begins. She looks up from her textbook and signs a question to her mother about cellular respiration and ATP production. Olivia's face lights up the way it always does when Zuri asks about science. She puts down her iPad and signs back a detailed explanation, her hands moving through the air with the precision of someone who thinks in formulas and equations. Zuri takes notes, asks follow-up questions, and they fall into the easy rhythm of a conversation that requires no sound. To anyone watching, it's beautiful. A mother and daughter communicating in a language of gesture and expression, completely absorbed in each other. A woman sitting 2 seats away notices them. She's watching with a smile, and then she does something unexpected. She signs in ASL, "Beautiful conversation." Olivia looks up, surprised and delighted. She signs back, "Thank you. Are you deaf too?" The woman signs, "Hearing, but my son is deaf. He's 6. Seeing you too gives me hope for what our relationship can be." They have a brief exchange about parenting, about education, about the world getting better slowly. It's a moment of connection, of being seen and understood. Olivia signs, "Your son is lucky to have you learning his language." The woman signs, "I'm the lucky one." The boarding announcement comes over the PA system. Group 1 is called. Olivia and Zuri gather their belongings with practiced efficiency. They walk to the gate agent, scan their boarding passes, and receive a smile that seems genuine. The agent glances at the names on the tickets and says, "Enjoy your flight, Dr. Campbell." She recognizes Olivia's name, mentions that she read an article about BioSentinel in a tech magazine. It's a small moment of validation, of being recognized for expertise rather than otherness. They walk down the jetway, Olivia's hand resting on Zuri's shoulder in their usual formation. At the aircraft door, there's a flight attendant, an older man with kind eyes and silver hair. He glances at Olivia's boarding pass, notices the medical alert notation that indicates she's deaf, and makes a point to establish direct eye contact. He speaks clearly, lips easy to read, "Good morning. We're glad to have you aboard." Olivia smiles, nods, signs, thank you. And then he does something that makes Zuri's shoulders relax. He signs back, simple but clear, you're welcome. He's learned basic ASL phrases, probably has a deaf family member or friend, and he's making the effort. It's such a small thing, but it means everything. They find their seats, 3C and 3D. Olivia takes the middle seat, Zuri takes the aisle so she can see approaching flight attendants and interpret as needed. The window seat is empty, which gives them a little extra space. They settle in, stowing their carry-on bags in the overhead compartment. Olivia pulls out sanitizer wipes and cleans their tray tables thoroughly, a habit from years of studying exactly how much bacteria lives on airplane surfaces. Zuri pulls out her phone, opens the voice memo app, and starts a recording. She places the phone in the seat pocket in front of her with the microphone exposed, a routine she's developed over years of needing evidence. Olivia notices and signs, "You really think we'll need it today?" Zuri signs back, "I hope not. But I'm tired of not having proof." Olivia reaches into her bag and pulls out a small wrapped box. She slides it across to Zuri with a slight smile. Zuri looks confused and signs, "Mom, it's your birthday." Olivia signs, "And my gift is you. Open it." Zuri unwraps the box carefully, revealing a necklace with a custom-designed pendant. It's a double helix DNA strand rendered in silver, with their initials, O and Z, intertwined in the structure. It's beautiful and meaningful and so perfectly her mother. Zuri's eyes fill with tears as she puts it on. She reaches over and hugs Olivia tightly, and for a moment, everything is perfect. Passengers continue boarding around them, filling up first class. The cabin feels calm, professional, normal. Everything is as it should be. Everything feels safe. Zuri leans back in her seat, touches the necklace at her throat, and thinks maybe this flight will be different. Maybe this time, they'll just be passengers like everyone else. And then Charlotte Hartley started her shift in the first-class cabin, and everything changed. If this story is already making you feel something, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next will make you question everything you think you know about who gets believed and who gets dismissed in our society. And drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed someone's expertise being dismissed because of how they look? Let's talk about it. Charlotte Hartley is 36 years old. She's been with Skyward Airlines for 12 years, working her way up from economy cabin service to the premium position of senior first-class flight attendant. She wears her auburn hair in a tight bun that never moves, her navy uniform is always immaculate, and her smile is practiced to perfection. She has the kind of professional demeanor that passengers appreciate, efficient and polished, though there's something about her warmth that doesn't quite reach her eyes. She's been working this route, Chicago to Los Angeles, for the past 4 years. She knows her regular passengers by name, knows their drink preferences, knows how to make them feel special. She takes pride in her cabin, refers to it as her first class, and she has very specific ideas about what first-class service should look like and who belongs there. What passengers don't know is that Charlotte has filed complaints with airline management before about what she calls inappropriate upgrades and passengers who don't understand first-class etiquette. She's raised concerns about people using reward points to access first class, claiming they don't respect the space the way paying customers do. She suggested that the airline should limit upgrade availability to maintain standards. Management has never acted on these complaints because they're thinly veiled classism and the airline knows it. But Charlotte believes she's protecting the first-class experience for the passengers who deserve it. She enters the first-class cabin now, scanning the passengers with the practiced eye of someone conducting an inspection. She stops at row 1, where an elderly white couple is settling in. She greets them warmly, "Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, so wonderful to have you back. How was Vienna?" She remembers them from a flight 6 months ago, remembers they mentioned an anniversary trip. This is the kind of personalized service she prides herself on. They smile, delighted to be remembered, and chat with her about their travels. She moves to row 2, where a middle-aged Asian man in an expensive suit is already working on his laptop. She recognizes him too. "Mr. Chin, can I bring you your usual scotch after takeoff?" He looks up, nods appreciatively. You remember. Thank you, Charlotte. She makes a note on her tablet, feeling satisfied. This is what first class should be. Regular business travelers who know the routine, who appreciate the service, who belong. And then she arrives at row 3. She looks at Olivia and Zuri, and something in her expression changes. It's subtle, just a slight tightening around her eyes, a barely perceptible pause. She glances down at her tablet, checking the manifest. Dr. O. Campbell and Z. Campbell. Seats 3C and 3D. Paid in full 6 weeks ago. There's a medical notation next to Dr. Campbell's name indicating deafness. Charlotte processes all of this information in about 3 seconds, and in those 3 seconds, she makes a series of assumptions that will define everything that follows. She sees a black woman, professionally dressed but not in a way Charlotte recognizes as first class. She sees a child, young, maybe 12 or 13. She sees the medical notation about deafness and immediately questions its validity because she's encountered passengers before who claimed disabilities to get priority boarding. She sees the paid-in-full notation and wonders how they afforded it. And somewhere in her mind, without conscious thought, she decides that something doesn't add up. Charlotte speaks to Olivia. Good morning, Dr. Campbell. Welcome to first class. Her voice has none of the warmth she offered the Pattersons or Mr. Chen. It's professional but cold, the greeting of someone going through the motions. Olivia doesn't respond. She's looking out the window, watching the ground crew load baggage into the cargo hold, completely unaware that anyone is speaking to her. Charlotte waits exactly 3 seconds, and then her jaw tightens. She tries again, louder this time, with the exaggerated enunciation of someone who thinks volume equals clarity. Dr. Campbell? Zuri looks up from her book and intervenes gently. Excuse me, my mother is deaf. She can't hear you. I'm her interpreter. Charlotte looks at Zuri like she's seeing her for the first time, her eyes scanning from Zuri's face to her youth, calculating. There's skepticism in that look, doubt. Charlotte says, "Oh, I see that's noted here on the manifest. Will she need any special accommodations?" The way she says special accommodations carries a weight, like it's a burden, an inconvenience. Zuri has heard this tone 1,000 times before. She responds with practiced patience. Just normal eye contact when speaking so she can read lips, and you can communicate through me for anything complex. Nothing special. Just basic respect. That last part comes out sharper than she intended, but she's already exhausted and they haven't even taken off yet. Charlotte nods curtly, her smile now completely gone. Noted. We'll do our best. She moves on without another word, without asking if they need anything, without the personalized warmth she showed every other passenger in the cabin. Zuri watches her go and feels her stomach tighten with familiar dread. She signs to Olivia. The flight attendant seems fine. She's lying, trying to protect her mother from the tension she already feels building. Olivia signs back. For now. Because Olivia knows. She always knows. You don't spend 41 years navigating a world designed for hearing people without developing a sixth sense for when someone has already decided you're a problem. The plane takes off smoothly. The ascent is unremarkable. The seatbelt sign turns off and the cabin settles into the rhythm of a cross-country flight. Charlotte and another flight attendant, a younger man named Michael, begin preparing the meal service. Charlotte announces to the cabin in that practiced flight attendant voice. Good morning again, everyone. We'll be serving breakfast shortly. Today's options are herb-crusted chicken with roasted vegetables or a vegetarian frittata. We also have pre-ordered special meals for those who requested them. She and Michael begin working through the rows methodically. Charlotte takes rows 1 through 3, Michael handles rows 4 through 6. Charlotte serves the Pattersons first, both ordering the chicken, and she presents their meals with genuine warmth and asks about their plans in Los Angeles. She serves Mr. Chen his scotch and a fruit plate, making small talk about a business deal he mentioned on their last flight. And then she arrives at row 3 with her service cart, and her professional mask slips back into place. She looks at Olivia, who's working on her laptop, reviewing slides for her FDA presentation. She speaks without first getting Olivia's attention. Dr. Campbell, I have your kosher meal here. Olivia doesn't hear her, doesn't look up, completely focused on her work. Charlotte waits exactly 3 seconds again, the bare minimum of patience, and then her voice gets sharper, louder, more annoyed. Dr. Campbell. Your meal. Zuri looks up from her homework. I'm sorry, what did you say? There's an edge to Charlotte's voice now. I have your mother's kosher meal. Zuri signs to get Olivia's attention, tapping her arm gently. Olivia looks up, sees Charlotte holding a sealed kosher meal tray, and nods in understanding. Charlotte places the meal on Olivia's tray table with more force than necessary, the plastic container making a sharp sound against the table. She turns to Zuri, and for you? Her tone is clipped, impatient. Zuri says, I'll have the chicken, please. Charlotte serves her the chicken plate without comment and moves on immediately, no pleasantries, no asking if they need anything else, just gone. Zuri looks down at her plate. The chicken is served with roasted vegetables and a small side salad. It looks fine, normal like airplane food always looks. She's hungry and she starts eating without much thought. Olivia opens her kosher meal packaging and examines the food carefully, the way she always does. This is her routine, her professional paranoia that has served her well. She's inspecting the appearance, the color, the texture. And then she notices something. She glances over at Zuri's plate, at the chicken her daughter is eating, and something about it catches her eye. She reaches over suddenly, touches Zuri's arm urgently to get her attention. Zuri looks up, a forkful of chicken halfway to her mouth. Olivia signs quickly, her hands moving with urgent precision, Stop eating that. Don't take another bite. Zuri is confused, signs back. Why? What's wrong? Olivia signs, Look at the chicken. Really look at it. And smell it. Zuri puts down her fork and actually examines the chicken for the first time. Now that she's paying attention, she notices the color is slightly off. There's a greenish tinge around the edges that she didn't see before because she wasn't looking. She lifts the plate closer to her face and smells it. The odor hits her immediately. It's faint but distinct, a sour smell that doesn't belong, the smell of food that's turned. Her stomach drops as she realizes she's already eaten 2 full bites. Olivia is already reaching into her purse, pulling out one of her emergency contamination detection strips. She carries a small pack of them everywhere, a habit born from professional caution and personal trauma. She unwraps one of the thin paper strips and touches it to the chicken juice pooling on Zuri's plate. They both watch as the strip begins to change color. It takes 30 seconds, but it feels longer. The white paper starts to shift, first to pale purple, then darker, until it's a deep violet that indicates a positive result. Olivia's face goes serious. The look Zuri knows means danger. She shows Zuri the strip and signs. That's positive for bacterial contamination. Likely salmonella or listeria. The chicken is spoiled. Zuri feels panic rising in her chest. She looks at her plate, at the 2 bites she's already eaten, and feels nausea that has nothing to do with the bacteria yet. She signs, I ate some of it. Am I going to get sick? Olivia signs back, trying to stay calm. Maybe. Maybe not. It depends on the bacterial load and your immune system. But we need to tell them immediately. Other passengers are eating this chicken right now. Zuri reaches up and presses the call button above their seats. The little light illuminates, a silent request for assistance. Charlotte is 3 rows back, serving meals to other passengers. She sees the call light but doesn't acknowledge it immediately. She finishes serving the passenger she's with, takes her time arranging items on her cart, and then finally, with visible reluctance, makes her way back to row 3. She arrives with forced patience, the expression of someone who's being interrupted. Yes, how can I help you? Zuri takes a breath and says as calmly as she can, There's a problem with my chicken. It's contaminated. Charlotte glances at the plate dismissively. It looks fine to me. Zuri feels her patience slipping but holds on. It smells spoiled and we tested it. My mother is a food safety scientist and she has contamination detection strips. The chicken tested positive for bacterial toxins. Charlotte's expression hardens into something cold and skeptical. She looks at the purple test strip like it's a child's toy. Tested it? With what, exactly? Olivia holds up the detection strip, the evidence right there in her hand, undeniable. Charlotte stares at it like it means nothing. Ma'am, I don't know what that is, but our food is prepared by certified caterers following strict FDA health codes. We've never had a contamination issue. Zuri feels anger building but keeps her voice level. I understand that, but sometimes contamination happens despite protocols. This chicken is bad. You need to stop serving it before more people eat it. Charlotte crosses her arms. I've served 8 chicken plates so far and no one else has complained. Zuri, that's because they haven't tested it. My mother literally designs the testing equipment that airlines use for food safety. She knows what she's talking about. Charlotte looks at Olivia with barely concealed skepticism, her eyes scanning Olivia's face, her clothes, her presence, and making a judgment. Is that so? It's not a question. It's doubt wrapped in 2 words. Olivia can't hear the exchange, but she's reading Charlotte's body language, seeing the dismissiveness, the disbelief, and she knows exactly what's happening. She signs to Zuri, tell her to smell it herself. That's all we're asking. Zuri relays, just smell the chicken. Please. Charlotte's voice drips with annoyance now. I don't need to smell it. The food is fine. You're making a fuss over nothing. Zuri feels her composure cracking. Then let me speak to the head flight attendant or the captain. This is a safety issue, not a complaint. Charlotte straightens up, her voice getting louder. I am the head flight attendant in this cabin, and you're creating a disruption over nothing. Mr. Chen from row 2 has been listening to this exchange. He turns around in his seat. Excuse me, I can smell something off from here. Maybe you should actually check the food. Charlotte shoots him a look that could freeze water. Sir, I have this under control. Please face forward. She turns back to Zuri, and now her professional mask is completely gone. You don't want the chicken, fine. I'll take it. But stop making a scene and disturbing other passengers. She reaches for Zuri's plate. Olivia's hand shoots out and stops her, placing her palm firmly over the plate. She signs rapidly to Zuri, her hands sharp with anger. Don't let her take it. We need to keep it as evidence. If other people get sick, they'll need to trace what they ate. Zuri says to Charlotte, we need to keep the plate. If other passengers get food poisoning, you'll need this to identify the contaminated batch. Charlotte's face flushes red. No one is going to get food poisoning. Give me the plate. Now. It's a command, not a request. They're at a standoff. Olivia's hands still covering the plate, Charlotte standing over them with barely controlled anger, other passengers watching now. And then Charlotte straightens up and changes her approach. She speaks loudly enough that nearby passengers can definitely hear her. Let me ask you something. How exactly did you afford first-class tickets? The question lands like a bomb. Zuri stares at her, stunned. Excuse me? Charlotte continues, her voice carrying through the cabin. It's a simple question. These seats cost $2,400 each. Did you pay for them or were they upgraded? Zuri feels heat flooding her face. We paid for them. With my mother's credit card. Why does that matter? Charlotte. Because in my experience, when passengers cause problems over perfectly good food, there's usually a reason. People who actually belong in first class don't complain about our service. The words hang in the air, ugly and undeniable. Zuri feels like she's been slapped. People who belong here? What does that mean? Mr. Chen from row 2 stands up. Hey, that's completely inappropriate. A woman from row 4 leans forward. Are you seriously implying what I think you're implying? Charlotte, defensive now but doubling down. I'm not implying anything. I'm simply saying that this meal is perfectly fine and refusing to eat it while making wild accusations is disruptive behavior. Olivia has been reading lips through parts of this exchange. She catches belong and upgraded and disruptive, and she understands exactly what's happening. She's lived this scenario in different contexts her entire life. She signs to Zuri, her hands moving with controlled fury. She thinks we didn't pay for these seats. She thinks we don't belong here because of how we look. Zuri signs back. I know, Mom. I'm handling it. Olivia signs. Show her the receipt. Show her my company credit card. Make her see. Zuri pulls out her phone with shaking hands, opens her email, finds their flight confirmation. She pulls up the receipt showing the full-price first-class purchase made 6 weeks ago on Dr. Olivia Campbell's corporate American Express card. She holds the phone up to Charlotte's face. Here's our receipt. Purchased 6 weeks in advance. Full price. Corporate American Express. Do you need to see my mother's ID and credit card too? Or is this enough proof that we belong here? Charlotte barely glances at the phone screen. Anyone can fake an email receipt. Zuri's voice rises despite her best efforts. Fake an email? Are you serious right now? Charlotte, lower your voice. You're disturbing other passengers. Mrs. Patterson from row 1 speaks up, her elderly voice sharp. She's not disturbing anyone. You are. You're harassing them. Charlotte ignores her, keeping her focus on Zuri. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take this plate, you're going to eat your mother's kosher meal if you're still hungry, and we're going to finish this flight without any further drama. Understood? Zuri, and if more people get sick from the contaminated chicken you're serving? Charlotte, they won't. Because there's nothing wrong with it. Olivia signs to Zuri, and Zuri translates the questions into English. Ask her to check the temperature logs from the catering truck. Ask her when the food was loaded onto the plane. Ask her if there have been any other complaints about this specific caterer. Charlotte's face goes red. I don't have to answer your questions. I'm not on trial here. Zuri, voice shaking now. No, but you will be if people get food poisoning and you refuse to investigate when someone with expertise warned you. Charlotte, are you threatening me? Zuri, I'm trying to prevent people from getting sick. The second flight attendant, Michael, approaches after hearing the raised voices. He's younger than Charlotte, maybe 28, with an easygoing demeanor that usually makes passengers comfortable. But he defers to Charlotte's seniority, looks to her for guidance in difficult situations. He arrives at row 3 and asks, "Everything okay here, Charlotte?" Charlotte, her voice tight. These passengers are refusing their meal and claiming it's contaminated. Michael looks at the plate on Zuri's tray table, leans in, and actually smells it. His face changes immediately, his nose wrinkling. Charlotte, that does smell off. Charlotte shoots him a warning look. It's fine, Michael. Don't start. Michael, uncertain now. Maybe we should check the other chicken plates. What batch was this from? Charlotte, irritated. The same batch I've been serving all morning, Michael. No one else has complained. Michael, yeah, but no one else has tested it. What is that purple strip? Zuri explains, her voice steadier now that someone is actually listening. It's a bacterial contamination detector. It tests for toxins produced by Salmonella, Listeria, and other foodborne pathogens. This chicken tested positive. My mother makes these. She owns BioSentinel Systems. They design food safety testing equipment for hospitals and airlines. Michael's eyes widen with recognition. Wait, BioSentinel? We just started using your sensors in our main catering facility last month. They caught a refrigeration failure that could have contaminated thousands of meals. Zuri feels a flicker of hope. That's my mother's company. Charlotte interjects sharply. Michael, we're not doing this. Michael, doing what? If the chicken is bad, we need to know. We can't serve contaminated food. Charlotte, the chicken is not bad. This is a customer trying to get attention, possibly setting up a lawsuit for a payout. Olivia has been reading their lips, catches the word lawsuit. She signs to Zuri, frustrated and hurt. She thinks this is about money. She doesn't understand this is about safety. We don't want money. We want people not to get sick. Michael says to Charlotte, his voice lower but still audible, let me just take a sample to the captain. He can decide what to do. Charlotte, the captain is busy flying the plane. We handle cabin issues. Michael, food safety isn't a cabin issue, Charlotte. It's a flight safety issue. If people start getting sick mid-flight. Charlotte cuts him off, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper, but Zuri can still hear. Michael, look at them. Really look. They're trying to cause a problem. Michael looks uncomfortable. Charlotte, come on. That's not, Charlotte. I've been doing this for 12 years. I know when someone's running a scam. The passenger from row 4, a woman in a sharp business suit, stands up. I ordered the chicken too. Let me check mine. She picks up her plate, lifts it to her nose, and her face scrunches in disgust. Oh God, mine smells wrong too. Another passenger from row 5. So does mine. I thought it was just me. Suddenly 3 passengers are holding up their chicken plates, examining them, smelling them, and confirming what Olivia already knew. The contamination isn't isolated to one plate. It's the entire batch. Charlotte's face goes pale, then red. She's losing control of the situation and she knows it. Her voice rises. Everyone calm down. You're all psyching yourselves out because one person complained. This is mass hysteria. But it's too late. The doubt is spreading through the cabin. Passengers are looking at their meals with suspicion. Some are pushing their plates away. The careful order Charlotte prides herself on maintaining is collapsing. And instead of acknowledging the problem, instead of investigating, she makes a decision that will define everything that follows. She pulls out her phone and radios the cockpit. Her voice is clipped, professional, controlled. Captain Morrison, this is Charlotte in first class. We have a situation. The captain's voice crackles back through the radio. What kind of situation? Charlotte, looking directly at Olivia and Zuri as she speaks. A passenger is inciting panic about the meal service. Claiming food poisoning, getting other passengers worked up. I need backup. Captain Morrison, is anyone actually sick? Any symptoms? Charlotte looks at Zuri. Has anyone vomited? Had any symptoms? Zuri, I ate 2 bites 10 minutes ago. Symptoms wouldn't show for at least 30 minutes to an hour. But the test definitively shows bacterial contamination. Charlotte into the radio. No current symptoms. But they're refusing to calm down and they're disrupting other passengers. Captain, can you de-escalate? Charlotte, still looking at Olivia and Zuri, her gaze hard. I'm trying, but they're not cooperating. The mother is deaf and the child is speaking for her, making accusations I can't verify. The situation is escalating. Captain, understood. I'll send the air marshal back. The radio clicks off. Zuri feels her chest tighten with fear. Air marshal? You called an air marshal on us? Charlotte, I called for help managing a disruptive passenger situation. Zuri, her voice cracking. We're not being disruptive. We reported contaminated food. We're trying to help. Charlotte, you accused our catering service of negligence, refused to surrender potential evidence, questioned my authority repeatedly, and now you're raising your voice and disturbing other passengers. That's disruptive. Olivia signs to Zuri, her hands shaking now. What's happening? What did she say? Zuri signs back, tears threatening. She called security. The air marshal. She said we're being disruptive. Olivia's face goes very still. That look Zuri knows means her mother is fighting to stay calm when everything in her wants to break down. Olivia pulls out her iPad, opens her notes app, and types quickly. She turns the screen to Charlotte. I am Dr. Olivia Campbell, CEO of Biosentinel Systems. I hold a PhD in microbiology from Johns Hopkins University. I have testified before Congress twice on food safety regulations. I have designed the contamination detection systems that 4 major airlines, including yours, now use in their catering facilities. The chicken you served my daughter tested positive for bacterial contamination. This is not a complaint. This is not a scam. This is not about getting a free flight or compensation. This is a public health warning. I am begging you to check your other meals before more people eat them. Please. Charlotte reads it. Her expression doesn't soften. If anything, it hardens further, defensive and stubborn. Ma'am, I appreciate your credentials, but I have protocols to follow. If the air marshal determines you're not a threat, we can discuss this further. She walks away. Mr. Chen stands up fully now. This is absolutely ridiculous. They reported a legitimate safety concern with evidence. Why are you calling security on them? Mrs. Patterson, I'm not eating this chicken. I want it taken away right now. Other passengers are murmuring, some taking photos with their phones, recording what's happening. Charlotte realizes she's losing control of the entire first-class cabin. Her voice rises, everyone please remain seated and calm down. But it's chaos now. The careful, controlled environment she maintains has shattered, and she's made it worse with every decision. The air marshal appears from economy class. Tom Rodriguez is 42 years old, 10 years with the Transportation Security Administration, built like someone who takes physical fitness very seriously. But his eyes are calm, assessing, looking for actual threats rather than assuming them. He walks into first class and immediately senses the tension. He sees Charlotte, flustered and defensive. He sees Olivia and Zuri, a professional woman and a child, and his confusion is visible. This doesn't look like a security threat. This looks like a customer service issue. Tom, I'm Air Marshal Rodriguez. What's the situation? Charlotte, composing herself, these passengers in 3C and 3D are refusing to comply with crew instructions and causing a disturbance. Tom looks at Olivia and Zuri, then back at Charlotte. What instructions did they refuse? Charlotte, I asked them to surrender their meal tray and they refused. Tom turns to Zuri. Ma'am, can you explain what's happening from your perspective? Zuri takes a shaky breath. My mother is deaf. I'm her interpreter. The chicken they served me was spoiled. We tested it with a contamination detection strip and it came back positive for bacteria. We tried to warn the flight attendants so other passengers wouldn't get sick, but she's accusing us of lying and causing trouble. She asked how we could afford first-class tickets. She implied we don't belong here. And when we kept trying to warn her about the food, she called you. Tom looks at Charlotte. Is this about the meal service? Charlotte, it's about passengers making unfounded accusations and refusing to follow instructions. Tom, what instructions specifically? Charlotte, I told them to give me the plate and they refused. Tom looks back at Zuri. Why did you keep the plate? Zuri, because it's evidence. If other people get sick from this chicken, the airline will need to trace which batch was contaminated. My mother works in food safety. She knows how outbreak investigations work. Tom looks at the plate still sitting on Zuri's tray table. He sees the purple detection strip. He leans in and smells the chicken himself. His face changes, nose wrinkling. That's definitely off. He picks up the strip. What is this? Zuri explains, her voice gaining strength. It's a rapid bacterial contamination detector. It tests for toxins. My mother invented them. She owns BioSentinel systems. They make food safety testing equipment. Tom pulls out his phone right there, Googles BioSentinel systems while everyone waits. He finds the company website, sees Olivia's photo as CEO, reads about their FDA contracts and congressional testimony. He looks up at Olivia with new understanding. You're actually her. You're Dr. Campbell. Olivia nods, pulls out her driver's license and her company ID badge, hands them to him. Tom examines them carefully, checking the photo against Olivia's face, verifying the credentials. He hands them back and turns to Charlotte. She's telling the truth about who she is. Charlotte, backed into a corner. That doesn't mean the food is contaminated. Our suppliers are certified. We've never had a contamination issue in 12 years. Tom, there's a first time for everything. And if she's a food safety expert and she's saying there's a problem, don't you think we should check? He picks up Zuri's plate, smells it again, and his expression is serious now. This isn't right. We need to inform the captain of a potential food safety issue. Charlotte, we already spoke to the captain about this. Tom, you spoke to him about a passenger disturbance. That's different from a possible contamination issue. That's a flight safety concern. Charlotte realizes she's made a significant tactical error. She tries to recover. Fine. I'll inform him of the food concern. Tom, I'll come with you. This is serious. They walk toward the cockpit together, leaving Olivia and Zuri sitting in row 3, surrounded by watching passengers. Zuri is shaking. Olivia takes her hand, squeezes it. Signs, you did everything right. I'm so proud of you. Zuri signs back. I'm scared, Mom. What if they don't believe us? What if people get sick and they blame us? Olivia signs. The truth is on our side. The evidence is undeniable. We did the right thing. But even as she signs it, she knows that truth and evidence don't always matter when people have already decided who you are based on what they see. If you're feeling angry right now, if you're wondering how this kind of discrimination still happens in 2024, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because what happens next will restore your faith that sometimes, just sometimes, truth wins. And comment below, what would you have done in Zuri's position? How do you stand up for what's right when no one wants to listen? Captain Morrison is 53 years old. He's been flying commercial aircraft for 26 years, accumulating over 18,000 flight hours across his career. He's seen emergency landings, medical crises, difficult passengers, equipment failures, and just about everything else that can happen at 35,000 feet. He has silver hair, a calm demeanor that comes from decades of making life and death decisions, and a professional reputation for putting safety above everything else. He's flying this 737 from Chicago to Los Angeles, a route he's flown hundreds of times, and he's expecting a routine morning. When Charlotte radioed about a passenger disturbance, he was annoyed but not particularly concerned. Passenger conflicts happen. Flight attendants handle them. But when Tom Rodriguez, the air marshal, requested to speak with him directly about a food safety issue, his attention sharpened. Food safety issues on planes are serious. If passengers start getting sick mid-flight, especially from bacterial contamination, it's not just a health crisis, it's a potential disaster. There's no hospital at 35,000 feet, and emergency landings are complex, expensive, and dangerous. He puts the plane on autopilot, tells his first officer to monitor systems, and steps out of the cockpit. He walks back into the first-class cabin and sees a scene he didn't expect. There's a cluster of passengers around row 3, some standing, some leaning over seats. Charlotte looks flustered and defensive. Michael looks worried. The air marshal looks serious. And in the center of it all, there's a woman and a young girl, both black, both looking exhausted. Captain Morrison speaks, his voice carrying authority. "Someone want to tell me what's going on?" Charlotte immediately starts. "Captain, I called because..." Tom interrupts her. "Captain, we have a potential food contamination issue. This passenger tested the chicken meal and it came back positive for bacterial toxins." The captain's expression shifts immediately from annoyance to concern. "Tested it how?" Zuri holds up the detection strip, shows him the purple color indicating contamination, and explains. "This is a rapid bacterial detection test. It screens for toxins produced by common foodborne pathogens. My mother invented these. She's the CEO of Biosentinel Systems." Captain Morrison looks at Olivia properly for the first time. "Dr. Campbell, is that correct?" Olivia reads his lips, nods, and hands him her business card. He examines it. "Dr. Olivia Campbell, PhD, founder and CEO, Biosentinel Systems." He pulls out his phone and makes a decision. He dials a number, and everyone waits in tense silence. The phone rings. A voice answers. "Captain Morrison, this is Captain Dave Morrison on Skyward Flight 447. I need to speak with the catering manager at O'Hare immediately. I don't care if he's in a meeting, get him on the phone now. This is a potential food safety emergency." There's a 2-minute wait that feels like 20. Passengers watch. Charlotte's face is pale. Michael looks nervous. Olivia and Zuri sit quietly, hands clasped together. Finally, a voice comes on the line. "Captain Morrison, this is Captain Morrison. I need detailed information on the chicken meal you loaded on my aircraft this morning. Batch number, prep time, temperature logs, everything. Because a passenger on my plane is claiming bacterial contamination, and she's a food safety expert with a PhD in microbiology who designs the testing equipment airlines use. So yes, I'm taking this seriously. She tested it with a rapid detection strip and it came back positive." He listens. His face changes from serious to angry. His voice rises. "When exactly were you planning to inform us about this? That batch was already flagged for temperature inconsistencies? Then why the hell was it loaded onto my aircraft? I don't want to hear excuses. I want to know how many other flights received meals from this batch." More listening. His jaw clenches. 6 flights total? Sweet Jesus. And how many passengers per flight? So we're looking at approximately 340 people potentially exposed to contaminated food. And you didn't think to notify anyone before these planes took off. He's pacing now, fury barely contained. I want a full incident report on my desk within the hour. I want every other flight that received meals from this batch notified immediately. And I want your company's insurance information because this is going to be a lawsuit nightmare. No, I'm not overreacting. I'm doing my job, which is apparently more than you're doing. He hangs up, takes a deep breath, and addresses the entire first-class cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. It appears the chicken meal served this morning came from a batch that was flagged for temperature control failures during transport from the catering facility to the aircraft. The catering company failed to communicate this information to us before loading. Anyone who consumed the chicken should be monitored for symptoms over the next 24 to 48 hours. He turns to Olivia, makes direct eye contact, speaks clearly so she can read his lips. Dr. Campbell, thank you for catching this. You may have just prevented a serious outbreak on this aircraft. Olivia signs, Zuri translates. Have other passengers started showing symptoms? Is anyone feeling sick? Captain Morrison, not on this flight yet, but I need to check. I'll make an announcement. He picks up the phone handset connected to the PA system and addresses the entire plane, all cabins. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Morrison. If you ordered the herb-crusted chicken meal for breakfast, please stop eating it immediately and notify a flight attendant. We have confirmed bacterial contamination in the chicken. Flight attendants will be coming through to collect any remaining chicken meals. If you consumed any portion of the chicken, please inform the crew. We're arranging medical monitoring for anyone affected. There are audible gasps throughout the plane, murmurs of concern and alarm. In first class, passengers who ordered chicken are pushing their plates away, some looking nauseous even though it's likely psychological. The captain turns back to Charlotte, and his voice is measured but carries an unmistakable edge of steel. Charlotte, why wasn't I informed immediately when Dr. Campbell first raised this concern? Charlotte, her voice small now. Sir, I thought she was just complaining about the meal quality. Passengers complain sometimes about airplane food and I thought. Captain Morrison cuts her off. She showed you a positive contamination test. That's not a complaint about quality. That's scientific evidence of a safety hazard. Charlotte, I didn't know what that strip was. It could have been anything. I had no way to verify. Captain, did you ask her? Did you investigate it all? Charlotte falls silent. Captain Morrison's voice gets harder. When a passenger makes a safety claim, any safety claim, what is your protocol? Charlotte, quietly, investigate thoroughly and inform command immediately. Captain, and what did you do instead? Charlotte doesn't answer. Captain Morrison, I asked you a question, Charlotte. What did you do? Charlotte, barely audible. I thought she was trying to cause trouble. Captain Morrison, based on what evidence? Charlotte, I've had passengers before who try to get compensation by claiming things are wrong with the service. I thought this was, Captain, did Dr. Campbell ask for anything? Compensation? Upgrades? A free flight? Anything at all? Charlotte, no, sir. Captain, so you made an assumption about her intent based on nothing. You saw a passenger you decided didn't belong in first class, and you dismissed her expertise without investigation. Is that accurate? Charlotte's eyes fill with tears. I made a judgment call based on my experience. Captain Morrison, a judgment call that could have resulted in 58 passengers on this aircraft getting severe food poisoning at 35,000 feet, 3 hours from the nearest airport, with limited medical supplies and no hospital. Do you understand the gravity of what could have happened? Mrs. Patterson speaks up from row 1. Captain, she asked them how they could afford first-class tickets. She implied they were frauds or running some kind of scam. Multiple passengers heard it. Mr. Chin, she said people who actually belong in first class don't complain. The discrimination was blatant. Captain Morrison's jaw tightens visibly. He looks at Charlotte. Is that true? Did you question how they could afford their tickets? Charlotte, crying now, I was trying to verify their legitimacy. Sometimes people use fraudulent. Captain, Their tickets were paid in full 6 weeks in advance on a corporate credit card. That information is in your manifest. You had their payment verification right in front of you, but you chose to question them anyway. Why? Charlotte has no answer. Captain, I'll tell you why. You saw a black woman and her child in first class and you made assumptions. You decided they didn't belong. And when that black woman, who happens to be one of the foremost food safety experts in the country, tried to warn you about contaminated food, you dismissed her as a troublemaker. Am I wrong? Charlotte, it wasn't about. She can't finish. Captain Morrison, we'll discuss your employment status when we land. Right now, you're being removed from active service for the remainder of this flight. Go to the aft galley and stay there. Michael will handle first class. We're done here. Charlotte looks like she wants to say something to defend herself, but Tom Rodriguez is standing right there and she knows there's nothing left to say. She walks toward the back of the plane, passing Olivia and Zuri. For a brief moment, she makes eye contact with them. Zuri expects to see remorse, an apology, something. But Charlotte just looks away quickly and keeps walking. No acknowledgement. No apology. Just retreat. Captain Morrison turns to Olivia. Dr. Campbell, do you have more of those testing strips? Olivia nods, reaches into her purse, and pulls out a small pack of 10 strips. She hands them to the captain. He looks at her. May I use these to test the remaining chicken meals? I need to know if this is isolated or systematic. Olivia signs, Zuri translates. Of course. That's why I carry them. The captain and Michael begin systematically testing each remaining chicken plate in first class. They unwrap strips, touch them to the chicken juice on each plate, wait 30 seconds. The passengers watch in silence as plate after plate tests positive. Out of 9 remaining chicken meals in first class, 7 come back positive for contamination. Captain Morrison's face goes grim. He makes another announcement to the whole plane. Ladies and gentlemen, we've now confirmed that multiple meals from this morning's chicken batch are contaminated. I want to emphasize, this contamination was caught early thanks to Dr. Olivia Campbell, a passenger in first class who happens to be a food safety expert. If you consumed any of the chicken, please notify a flight attendant immediately. We're coordinating with medical personnel on the ground to meet the aircraft when we land. He turns back to Olivia and Zuri. I cannot thank you enough. I've been flying for 26 years, and this could have been one of the worst incidents of my career. If people had started getting sick an hour into the flight. He doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. Everyone understands what he's not saying. Zuri suddenly speaks up, her voice shaking but strong. She tried to tell your flight attendant immediately. As soon as we knew. But Charlotte wouldn't listen. She thought my mom was lying. She thought we didn't belong in first class because we're black. She called you about a passenger disturbance instead of a safety issue. She called the air marshal on us instead of checking the food. Do you know how many times this happens to us? How many times my mom tries to help or explain something and people assume she's stupid because she's deaf, or they assume we're lying because we're black? Her voice cracks. My mom has saved lives with her work. She's testified before Congress about food safety. She's brilliant. She's accomplished things most people never will. And your flight attendant treated her like a scammer, like a criminal, just because of how she looks and because she can't hear. There's complete silence in the cabin. Captain Morrison looks at this 12-year-old girl who just articulated something so painful and true that no one knows how to respond. He speaks slowly, carefully. You're absolutely right. And I'm sorry. I'm deeply, profoundly sorry that happened to you and your mother. It should never have happened. Zuri, but it does happen. It happens all the time. And sorry doesn't fix it. Captain Morrison, no, it doesn't. But accountability might. What happened here was wrong on multiple levels, and there will be consequences. I can promise you that. Michael approaches row 3 quietly. Dr. Campbell, Zuri, is there anything I can get you? Water? Juice? A different meal? Anything at all? Zuri looks at the food cart and feels her stomach turn. I'm not hungry anymore. Olivia signs, just water, please. Still or sparkling, either is fine. Michael brings them both sparkling water in real glasses, not plastic cups. He brings premium snacks, fruit, anything he can think of to make amends. He treats them with careful, genuine respect, the respect they should have received from the beginning. But it feels hollow after everything. Olivia notices Zuri is shaking. She takes her daughter's hand, holds it tight, signs, "You were so brave. I'm so proud of you." Zuri signs back, tears finally falling, "I'm so tired, Mum. I'm so tired of fighting just to be treated like a person. I'm tired of having to prove we deserve to exist in spaces. I'm tired of being 12 and having to be the adult because people won't listen to you." Olivia pulls her close, holds her while she cries quietly. Other passengers look away, giving them privacy, but several are wiping their own eyes. Mr. Chin catches Zuri's eye and mouths, "Thank you for speaking up." Mrs. Patterson makes a small gesture of solidarity, a nod that says, "I see you and I'm sorry." The remaining 3 hours of the flight pass quietly. Olivia tries to work on her presentation but can't concentrate. Zuri tries to read but the words blur. They sit together, hand in hand, processing what just happened. About an hour before landing, Captain Morrison returns to row 3. "Captain, Dr. Campbell, when we land, there will be airline representatives and medical personnel waiting. Everyone who consumed the chicken will need to be examined and monitored for the next 24 to 48 hours as a precaution." Olivia signs, Zuri translates, "What about the other flights that got the same contaminated batch?" Captain checks his tablet. "We've contacted all 6 flights. Most are already on the ground. 2 had to make emergency landings when passengers started showing severe symptoms: vomiting, fever, cramping. They're being treated at hospitals now." Zuri's eyes widen. "People actually got sick? How many?" "Captain, last update I received, 14 passengers across 2 flights showing symptoms. They're being treated. It could have been much worse." Zuri does quick math in her head, "And on this flight, we stopped 58 people from eating contaminated chicken. We maybe saved their lives." "Captain, you definitely saved them from a very bad day, possibly worse. Bacterial food poisoning at altitude can be life-threatening, especially for elderly passengers or people with compromised immune systems." He pulls out his business card, writes his personal cell number on the back, hands it to Olivia. "I'd like to personally thank you again when we land, if you have time. And I'd like your permission to share your company information with our airline's safety division. We clearly need to upgrade our contamination detection systems." Olivia takes the card, nods, signs, "I'm happy to help make flying safer for everyone." The captain returns to the cockpit. The plane begins its descent into Los Angeles. If this story is making you realize how often expertise gets dismissed because of bias and prejudice, hit that like button and subscribe. Because we're about to see what happens when the media catches wind of this story and Dr. Campbell becomes a viral hero. Drop a comment. Have you ever had your professional expertise dismissed because of your race, gender, disability, or age? Share your story. The plane lands at Los Angeles International Airport and taxis to the gate. Captain Morrison makes a final announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen who ordered the chicken meal, please remain seated after we park at the gate. Medical personnel will be boarding to examine anyone who consumed the contaminated food. Everyone else may deplane normally." Again, thank you to Dr. Olivia Campbell for her vigilance and expertise. You made this flight safer for everyone. Olivia and Zuri gather their belongings slowly. As they stand to leave, something unexpected happens. Multiple passengers approach them. Mrs. Patterson from row 1 takes both of Olivia's hands. "Thank you for speaking up. I can't imagine if we'd all gotten sick mid-flight. You saved us." Mr. Chin shakes Zuri's hand. "I'm sorry that flight attendant treated you that way. That was disgraceful. You handled it with more grace than most adults would have." The woman from row 4, the one in the business suit, approaches. "I recorded part of the interaction between you and Charlotte. If you need it for any kind of complaint or legal action, I'll send it to you right now." She pulls out her phone, airdrops the video file to Zuri's phone. "Zuri, I recorded audio on my phone too. I record everything now because nobody believes us without proof." They exchange contact information with several passengers who offer to provide statements about what they witnessed. As they walk up the jetway, they see a cluster of people waiting at the gate. Airline personnel in suits, medical staff with equipment, and something unexpected, news cameras. Olivia stops abruptly, signs to Zuri, "Why are there reporters here?" Zuri, "I think the story already got out. Someone on the plane must have posted about it on social media during the flight." And indeed, if they'd been checking their phones, they would have seen that their story was already spreading online. Passengers had posted about the contamination, about the confrontation with Charlotte, about Dr. Campbell saving the flight. Hashtags were forming. Hashtag Skyward Food Poisoning, hashtag Dr. Campbell, hashtag First Class While Black. An airline representative approaches quickly, a professional woman in a sharp business suit carrying a tablet. She speaks to Olivia. "Dr. Campbell? I'm Sarah Chin, Vice President of Customer Relations for Skyward Airlines. May we speak privately before you deal with the media?" Olivia reads her lips, nods. Sarah leads them to a private airline lounge, away from the cameras and crowds. Inside the quiet lounge, Sarah closes the door and speaks directly to Olivia, maintaining eye contact so Olivia can read her lips. "First, on behalf of Skyward Airlines, I want to apologize profusely for everything that happened on that flight. The catering failure, the flight's attendant's conduct, the way you were treated, all of it represents a complete failure on our part. We failed you, we failed your daughter, and we failed our other passengers." Olivia signs, Zuri translates, "Are the other passengers from our flight okay? Has anyone gotten sick?" Sarah, "Medical team is examining everyone who ate the chicken now. So far, no one on your flight is showing symptoms, which is remarkable. The earlier flights from this morning weren't as fortunate." She pulls out her tablet, shows them news headlines that are already appearing online. Airline food poisoning outbreak affects hundreds. Passengers quick thinking prevents mid-air disaster. Black scientist saves flight after being racially profiled by flight attendant. Olivia's photo from her company website is already being used in articles, pulled from BioSentinel's press page. Sarah continues, "The media knows you were the passenger who caught the contamination. They want a statement from you. You're under no obligation to speak with them, but if you choose to, we'll support whatever you decide to say." Zuri, her voice suspicious, "Even if what we say makes your airline look bad?" Sarah meets her eyes. "Yes. Even then. What happened on that flight was wrong, and we can't fix it by hiding from it." Zuri asks the question that's been bothering her, "What about Charlotte? The flight attendant?" Sarah, "She's been suspended pending a full investigation. Given the racial profiling allegations and her failure to follow safety protocols, termination is highly likely. We're reviewing all the passenger testimonies and the recordings from your phone and other passengers." Zuri feels an unexpected twist of guilt. "I don't want to ruin her life." Sarah's response is firm but kind. "You didn't ruin her life. She made choices that had consequences. She saw a passenger raise a legitimate safety concern and instead of investigating, she made assumptions based on race. She endangered lives because of her bias. That's not your fault. That's hers." Zuri nods slowly, but she still feels the weight of it. Olivia signs a question, Zuri translates, "Will there be changes to prevent this from happening to other people?" Sarah, "Yes. We're implementing mandatory bias training for all customer-facing staff, upgrading our contamination detection systems, and revising our complaint protocols. We're also reviewing our hiring and accountability practices. Change won't happen overnight, but it will happen." Olivia considers, then signs, "I'll talk to the media. But I want to be clear, this isn't just about one flight attendant. It's about a system that allows disabled people and people of color to be dismissed, disbelieved, and endangered. That's the real problem." They step out of the lounge into a small conference room where the press has gathered. There are cameras, reporters, microphones. Olivia sits at a table with Zuri beside her, translating. A reporter asks, "Dr. Campbell, can you walk us through what happened on that flight?" Olivia signs, Zuri translates her words, "I ordered a kosher meal for myself and my daughter ordered the chicken. When her meal arrived, I noticed immediately that it smelled wrong. I work in food safety. I've spent my entire career studying bacterial contamination. I know what spoiled food looks like and smells like. I always carry rapid detection strips because I nearly died from food poisoning as a child. I tested the chicken and it came back positive for bacterial toxins. Reporter: what happened when you informed the flight crew? Zuri translates Olivia's signing. The flight attendant didn't believe me. She dismissed the test results. She implied we were trying to scam the airline. She questioned how we could afford first-class tickets. She suggested we didn't belong in that cabin. When I kept trying to warn her that other passengers were eating contaminated food, she called security instead of investigating. She treated a scientific warning as a disruption. Reporter: do you believe you were racially profiled? Zuri translates: yes. I believe the flight attendant saw a black deaf woman and her child in first class and made assumptions about our credibility, our legitimacy, and our right to be in that space. When I raised a safety concern backed by scientific testing and my professional expertise, I was treated as a troublemaker instead of an expert. If I had been a white man with the same credentials raising the same concern, I believe the response would have been very different. Reporter: how did you feel in that moment? Olivia signs for a long time, her hands moving with emotion. Zuri's voice thickens as she translates: I felt invisible. I felt like no matter how much I've accomplished, no matter how many degrees I have or companies I've built or lives I've saved with my work, some people will only ever see my skin color and my disability and assume I don't belong. Assume I'm lying. Assume I'm trying to cheat the system. And I felt afraid for my daughter, who had to watch her mother be dismissed and disrespected and reduced to a problem that needed to be managed instead of a person with expertise that needed to be heard. Zuri wipes tears from her own face as she translates her mother's words. The room is silent except for camera shutters clicking. Another reporter: what do you want people to take away from this experience? Olivia signs: listen to people. Especially listen to people from marginalized communities, people of color, disabled people, women, anyone who gets routinely dismissed. We're not complaining to cause trouble or get free stuff. We're often trying to help. We're trying to make things safer, better, more fair. And maybe, just maybe, we actually know what we're talking about. My daughter and I probably saved dozens of people from getting seriously ill on that flight. But we had to fight to be heard. We had to prove our worth. We had to provide evidence that we belonged in the seats we paid for. That's exhausting. That's wrong. And that needs to change. The press conference ends. As they leave, a reporter calls out, Dr. Campbell, there's already a hashtag trending about your story. Zuri checks her phone. Hashtag Dr. Campbell Saves Lives is trending on Twitter. The video from the passenger in row 4 has been posted and has already been viewed over 1 million times. Comments are flooding in. 1 week later, Olivia is in her office at BioSentinel Systems in Chicago. Her office overlooks the Chicago River, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city she loves. She's on a video call with the CEO of Skyward Airlines. The CEO appears on her large monitor. Dr. Campbell, I'm calling personally to apologize again for what happened and to discuss moving forward. Olivia types on her communication app, which converts her words to speech. I appreciate the call. CEO, we'd like to offer you a consulting contract. We want BioSentinel to completely overhaul our food safety testing systems across all our catering facilities. We also want to implement mandatory unconscious bias training for all customer-facing employees with real accountability measures. Olivia types, I'll consider the consulting contract. But training only works if there are meaningful consequences for violations. Charlotte Hartley shouldn't be the only person held accountable. The systems that allowed her bias to operate unchecked for 12 years need to be dismantled and rebuilt. See, agreed. We're conducting a top-to-bottom review of our complaint processes, our hiring practices, and our accountability structures. Your daughter's recording and the passenger testimonies were, frankly, eye-opening and horrifying. Olivia types, my daughter shouldn't have needed to record that interaction to be believed. A 12-year-old child shouldn't have to gather evidence just to be treated with basic dignity. Seal, you're absolutely right. She shouldn't have. We have significant work to do, and we're committed to doing it. Will you help us? Olivia considers, types. Send me the contract details. I'll review and respond. The Collins. Zuri enters the office carrying takeout lunch from their favorite Ethiopian restaurant. She sets it down on her mother's desk. How'd it go? Olivia signs. They want to hire us to redesign their entire food safety system. They want to make changes. Zuri, do you believe they'll actually follow through? Olivia signs. Time will tell. But we gave them no choice. The whole world is watching now. Zuri pulls out her phone, shows her mother the latest news. Did you see this? Charlotte filed a wrongful termination lawsuit. She's claiming she was just doing her job and the airline made her a scapegoat. The headline reads, Former flight attendant sues Skyward Airlines, claims wrongful termination. Olivia reads it, signs. She still doesn't understand what she did wrong. Zuri, or she understands and just doesn't care. She's still saying she had legitimate concerns and was following protocol. Olivia signs something. Zuri translates aloud. Some people never learn. They can't admit they were wrong because that would mean confronting their own bias. But you know what? The 340 passengers who didn't get food poisoning across those 6 flights learned something. The other airlines that are now upgrading their testing procedures learned something. The people who saw this story and started questioning their own assumptions learned something. That matters more than one person's refusal to grow. If you believe this story matters, if you think Dr. Campbell's expertise and Zuri's bravery deserve recognition, subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're almost at the end, and you need to hear what happened next. Comment below, what industry or situation needs this kind of accountability and change? That evening, Olivia and Zuri are at home in their brownstone in Bronzeville. It's a beautiful November night in Chicago, unseasonably warm, and they're sitting in their living room with the windows open. Olivia is reading a book on microbiome research. Zuri is supposed to be doing homework but keeps getting distracted by her phone, watching the social media response to their story continue to unfold. Zuri looks up from her chemistry textbook. Mom. Olivia sees her and signs, Yes, sweetheart. Zuri puts down her pencil, signs the question that's been bothering her. Do you think things will actually change? Or are we just going to keep having to prove ourselves over and over forever? Olivia puts down her book, takes time to think about her answer. She signs carefully, and we hear her words through Zuri's voiceover translation, both. Things will change, but slowly. So slowly that sometimes it will feel like nothing is changing at all. We'll still have to prove ourselves more than others do. That's the reality of being black, of being disabled, of being women, of being anything other than what the world considers default. But here's what I know to be true. She continues signing. Every time we speak up, we make it a little bit easier for the next person who comes after us. Every time we refuse to be dismissed, we challenge someone's assumptions. That flight attendant might never change her mind about what happened. She might never admit she was wrong. She might go to her grave believing she was the victim in this situation. But maybe someone who saw our story on the news will think twice before making assumptions about a person with a disability. Maybe a manager somewhere will remember our story when an employee raises a safety concern and actually listen instead of dismissing them. Maybe a young black girl who wants to be a scientist will see that I exist and know that she can exist too. Zuri signs back. So we keep fighting. Olivia signs. We keep existing loudly. We keep taking up space. We keep being excellent at what we do. Not because we have to prove anything to anyone, but because we deserve to exist freely, to contribute our gifts to the world, to be heard and believed and respected. That flight attendant saw me as a problem, but I saved lives on that plane. My expertise, which she dismissed, prevented a disaster. That's not about proving her wrong. That's about the value of including voices that are often excluded. Zuri smiles. I can do that. I can exist loudly. Olivia signs. I know you can. You already do. You're 12 years old and you stood up to adults who had all the power. You advocated for me when I couldn't advocate for myself in that moment. You demanded to be heard. That's extraordinary. Zuri signs. I learned from the best. They sit in comfortable silence for a moment, just being together. Then Zuri's phone buzzes. She looks at it, her eyes widen. Mom, look at this. She shows Olivia her screen. It's an email from the organizers of the Youth STEM conference in Los Angeles, the one Zuri was supposed to attend this week before everything happened. The email reads, "Dear Zuri, we've been following the news about what happened on your flight to Los Angeles. We were so inspired by your advocacy for your mother and your scientific thinking under pressure that we'd like to invite you to be a keynote speaker at next year's conference. We want young people to hear from other young people about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Would you be interested?" Zuri looks at her mother, signs. "They want me to speak at a conference. I'm 12. Olivia signs back. "You have something important to say. Say it." Zuri grins, types a response. "Yes, I'd be honored. Thank you." Another buzz. This time it's a text from Captain Morrison. "Dr. Campbell wanted to update you. All passengers from our flight have been monitored. 0 cases of food poisoning. The 2 other early morning flights weren't as lucky, 14 passengers hospitalized, but all expected to recover fully. You saved lives. The airline is implementing biosentinel sensors in all catering facilities by end of year. Thank you again." Olivia shows Zuri. They sit with that information. 14 people got sick. Could have been 70, 80, 100. Could have included Zuri. Could have been a tragedy. But it wasn't, because Olivia trusted her expertise and Zuri fought to be heard. Text appears on screen over the image of them sitting together. Dr. Olivia Campbell's consulting work led to the implementation of biosentinel contamination detection systems in 12 major airlines within 6 months. No contaminated meals have reached passengers since the systems were installed. More text. Zuri Campbell graduated high school at 16 and is currently studying biomedical engineering at MIT. She still carries contamination testing strips everywhere she goes. She's also studying law, planning to specialize in disability rights and discrimination cases. More text. Charlotte Hartley's wrongful termination lawsuit was dismissed by a judge who ruled that racial profiling and failure to follow safety protocols constituted just cause for termination. She has not returned to airline work. She declined all interview requests for this story. Final text. In the year following this incident, Skyward Airlines reported a 43% decrease in discrimination complaints from passengers of color and passengers with disabilities. The company attributes this to mandatory bias training, improved reporting systems, and real consequences for discriminatory behavior. Last text. The fight for equality, accessibility, and dignity continues. Every day. In big moments and small ones. In airplane cabins and boardrooms and classrooms and everywhere else that people exist. This story is one fight, one moment, one family's refusal to be dismissed. There are thousands more happening right now, fought by people whose names we'll never know. The work continues. Olivia looks at her daughter and signs one last thing. "Are you okay? After everything that happened?" Zuri thinks about it honestly. "I'm tired. I'm angry that it happened. I'm sad that it keeps happening. But I'm also proud that we didn't back down. I'm proud that we saved people. And I'm hopeful that maybe, just maybe, our story will make the next person's fight a little bit easier." Olivia signs. "That's all we can do. Make it a little bit easier for the next person. That's how the world changes. One fight at a time. One voice at a time. One refusal to be silent at a time." Zuri nods, puts her head on her mother's shoulder. They sit like that as the sun sets over Chicago, over their home, over the life they've built through expertise and excellence and the relentless refusal to be anything less than who they are. The screen fades to black with one final line. Be the person who listens. Be the person who believes. Be the person who stands up. The world needs more people like Olivia and Zuri Campbell. The world needs you to be brave enough to hear the voices that are often silenced. If this story moved you, changed you, made you think differently about who gets heard and who gets dismissed, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And most importantly, drop a comment telling us, what will you do differently after hearing this story? How will you be the change? Let's keep this conversation going. Because Dr. Campbell was right, The fight continues, and we all have a role to play in making the world more just, more accessible, and more humane. Thank you for watching.